Welcome back, basketball fans, to Zero Gravity, Apollo Media's NBA podcast brought to you by Big City Wings, Houston's wing joint, Apollo Wing Joint. Go check them out today if you're in the Houston area, and go check out PrizePicks. It's our daily fantasy app sponsor. Use code Apollo when you sign up and get up to $100 matched on your first deposit when you use code Apollo with PrizePicks. Shout out to our sponsors. Shout out to you for listening or viewing on our YouTube channel at Apollo HOU on YouTube. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Welcome back, Josh. Let's talk some basketball. How are we doing?
Oh, let's do it, brother. I've been prize picking all week, and shout out to them, but not shout out to me. It's been very tough out here. Jalen Johnson, if you didn't participate in that blowout, I would be just a much better mental, physical, financial situation. But that's okay. Life moves forward. We're here to talk the Sixers downfall. They cannot believe, like we were talking about pre-show, there was an actual real arguably entire podcast that Paul George came out with. It feels like there's a mole in the system, or this could be like a huge leak, blow up. I don't know what's going on, Stone. Let's get after it. Why don't we?
We need to get Jack Nicholson and Leonardo DiCaprio and Matt Damon in on the chase here and just watch The Departed if you haven't already. That's all I could think about this entire time when there's a mole or a rat, if you will, if you're a part of the mob. Rats are common. Tends to just happen, you know? And much like the mob, the Philadelphia 76ers never come out on top. They never win all the time. And we've been talking about the Sixers offline a good bit this season. They started off 2-11. Not great. Joel Embiid punches a reporter. Not great. Gets suspended for 3 games. Not great. Now there's a news story with the 76ers. And I think it was Windhorse. One of the guys on the Windhorse podcast was calling the 76ers the Dallas Cowboys of the NBA. Haven't won anything recently. Haven't been to the conference championship in decades, even. And there's only drama with this team. And that is the NBA. It is basketball first, and it is drama second, and sometimes drama is first. And in this scenario, drama is first with the Philadelphia 76ers. Joel Embiid, perpetually late to everything. Meetings, practice, media. Who's to say what all he's been late to over the years? Apparently this has been happening his whole career. He doesn't treat employees correctly and just isn't kind, apparently, and all the things. He's the full superstar motive when it comes to that. It seems like. It appears that way. I can't say for sure. I'm not in the Sixers organization. I'm not there on a day-to-day basis. I don't know Joel Embiid, but there's a rat telling us that that's what's happening. And apparently there was a little players meeting. Tyrese Maxey calls him out. You're always late. Show up on time. He was late for the meeting, the players only meeting, allegedly. That it was, and then there came out that it wasn't even a players only meeting. It wasn't a meeting at all. I think they're just trying to cover for it. And it appears that there is a rat in the organization by the name of Paul George, I guess. A full podcast comes out on his channel, Podcast P with Paul George. Terrible podcast name. Just, by the way, we got to work on that. He apparently talks about the meeting. I haven't watched the podcast. I couldn't tell you what is said in it. I have no idea, or if he's covering for the rat, aka him, because he's very clearly the rat in this situation. You can't put out a podcast episode and not be the rat.
It's hard to feel some kind of way just yet about this. Obviously, we need more information, but immediately going off vibes here. I know it's not Jared McCain.
No.
Paul George surely is subject A, subject one, whatever you want to call it. But just knowing how bad the Sixers have been this year and knowing that it's not going to get better anytime soon, obviously everyone seems to be hurt, and as well as even the New Orleans Pelicans, like we've talked about. I saw that lineup.
95% of their entire rotation was out last night.
Did not look great. Did not look great at all. But with the Sixers, it's really tough to figure out because you're in a terrible Eastern Conference and you're starting off terrible, as well as the Milwaukee Bucks too. And they might be finding their groove, but as for right now, the Sixers there's no way out. And I don't know what needs to change. I don't know if Tyrese Maxey once he comes back, he's going to turn into, Jesus reincarnated. I don't know what else can come from this other than something getting better, because obviously it will. But if we're looking back on this team come January, February, and there's little to no improvements, and even on the smallest of metrics, if they don't go 500 from here on out and they're just, that bad with that amount of either current, former, or post or pre talent, whatever's going on, there are bright spots, obviously, but man, this team looks grim. And Joel Embiid is not helping his case here. I mean, he's looked like an asshole for 10 plus years, and it became a funny bit when they started winning. And looking back on it, there's nothing to really go off of now. They haven't won a title. They haven't gone to a conference championship. It is the epitome of just being enough, but not doing everything you can in that moment to get to that next level. And Joel Embiid just for years, and I saw this. It was like a documentary clip of him in AAU. I think this was maybe a year or so ago, and he was an asshole back then. Like he was just talking to like some of his like old white dude coaches, just being a dickhead. And I loved it in a way because when you're so talented and because it depends. You got to have that. Hey, going back to this word, I don't think we've said this word at all this whole year so far, but the aura. It really all depends on who all you are as a person and who you surround yourself with and who you are as a straight up basketball player. And Joel Embiid has not had that in years, and it was so fun going through the process. But there's nothing to show for it, and we're post post process, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. And sure, that like I said, there's bright spots, but this team is dark. It's very very dark, and there's no coming back right now. Surely, especially with the
Right.
injuries.
And luckily for the Sixers, they play in the East. Like if they're in the West, the season's over at this point. If you already had 11
Cooked.
losses, it's over at this point. Like you can't do that in the West. You can do this in the East. They can sneak into a 6 spot. They can sneak into a 5 spot. Even they may even end up hosting. Like who's to say? Like the East is decent. And with Paolo Banchero's injury to the Magic. Like there's a top 5 team that may not be a top 5 team until he comes back. And obviously Cleveland, New York, Boston. Those are your 3 right now. And Indiana doesn't look as good right now. Miami's not good. Atlanta's below average. Like you can make it in the East. They can get to the playoffs. The problem is that Paul George just got hurt again. He hyperextended his knee. Another bone bruise will be evaluated after 2 games, I think is what they said, which I believe it'll be longer than that if he missed time, like extended weeks with a hyperextended knee, did the same thing, same knee. Maxey had been hurt for weeks. Embiid has been hurt. He's played like 3 games this year, essentially. He's 3 of 23 from 3. He doesn't get to the fouls. He's not getting to the foul line as much. His numbers look awful. He flopped on a free throw. Did you see that?
What I always want to know context. I'm the
Yeah,
context guy. The Wojak of I hate to see my favorite players get hurt or opposite players get hurt. Same thing. Like I needed context, but I didn't need context. And just seeing the whole thing play out, you're like, who the
I
hell is?
don't understand.
Who does this man think he is?
I don't
Genuinely.
understand. So the Sixers are a mess minus Jared McCain. He's the only person that's seemingly caring about playing good, winning basketball. And he's just putting the team on his back, and the team can't do anything other than what Jared McCain is doing. And that's what a Duke
Hmm.
Brotherhood member will do for you.
Wow.
Taking shots at Kansas there, and
There it
in
is.
Kentucky. Why not?
Any other blue
Yeah,
blood?
pretty
You
much
got it.
everyone else. But yeah, the Sixers are an absolute disaster class right now. They can't stay out of the media, which is not something you want to happen with your team. And they continually find new, crazier stories every time now. Like, I don't know how they're doing it. It's like injuries at first, and they're always talking about injuries. Embiid punches, shoves a reporter. Not great, not a good look. Suspended for 3 games. That doesn't happen too often in the NBA unless you're getting a technical foul suspension, which we'll talk about him in a minute, but he's going to come up on that by Christmas at this rate. Luka Doncic, looking at you, pal. Yeah, it's not good in Philadelphia, and I can't say I'm sorry for it. Don't like Philly fans. I don't like the Sixers, and I'm not sorry about it. I wish you nothing but pain and suffering for this entire season because it's also giving me drama. It's like a Netflix show, and I know we just had an NBA Netflix show starting 5, but it's it's a TV show. That's what NBA. It's reality television, and it belongs on Bravo half the time, and the other half on ESPN, TNT, and wherever else basketball games are going to be played. So that's the Philly talk for you. Paul George is the rat, which is the funniest thing ever. It's so good.
He couldn't be so like, that's the thing, he couldn't be so obvious about it, he couldn't be more obvious about it, and it's almost like when you don't do something bad, you overcompensate by talking louder or doing,
Right.
or but on the same hand, if you do the really bad thing, then you talk louder, you do crazier things, and here we are. I know you have an amazing show with amazing sponsors, Paul George. He probably makes a great amount of coin
Yeah.
off that show. Um, but not everything has to be, fuel to the fire here. I don't understand why we're even talking
Yeah.
about this. It should be like old school beat writers just talking about this. It shouldn't be like the players themselves. And it's scary to know that, yes, we do have like much more access to all this information, and this is a net good. But I don't want to hear what's supposed to be the number two best player on a team talking about shit that should be private. Like we talked about on last episode, a lot of GMs' minds are private. A lot of what we see is private or a lot of what we like the little information that we do get about trades, rumors, whatever it is, like all that stuff's private, and it's probably meant to be private, unless the Rockets are saying Amen Thompson and Tari Eason are untouchable, because I want the world to know that.
Yeah, it's insane. And now being a part of the actual media with press credentials to the Dallas Stars, not a big deal. Um,
Motion.
I can see why this would be fun for reporters, but for the team, like that's got to suck. And now a player's just airing it out on his podcast. You can't have that. And we talked pre-show. We think that current players should just not have podcasts. They can do media availability, they can do interviews, they can do all the things. They can show up on podcasts, but they shouldn't have their own because it gives them access to do what Paul George just did. And that's something you don't want, especially when you just gave him a free agent like $200+ million in the twilight of his prime, if we can even say that at this point. Like he just keeps getting hurt and he hasn't been good before he was hurt or after he was hurt. So
No,
not ideal. Not ideal from Philly. And I don't care. It's very
absolutely
fun.
not. Absolutely not. We got to let it go. Everything's got to let go. Just surely it can't get much worse, but it could. And
I hope so.
I wouldn't hate it. Yeah.
It'd be fun. It'd be fun. Let's talk Luka. Luka Doncic got a wrist injury, sprained wrist. I don't really know what it was. He's going to be reevaluated in a week. It's a big blow for my Mavericks. Don't want to see that because he hasn't been right this season. He hasn't been scoring at a crazy clip. He's not putting up triple doubles at a crazy clip. It's been a frustrating Luka season to start. And Kyrie Irving was this last year. He did the same thing. He got off to a super slow start the first 20 games, and all of a sudden he just came on, figured it out, and we were hoping that Luka was going to start breaking through. And now he's gone for a week at minimum. Like not ideal. I don't like to see that.
No, I mean this is an inarguably top two, if not top one player in the league. Win healthy, win everything. Almost. I don't want to say Justin Herbert style, but when everything's right for Luca, Mr. Luca, he's one of the most fun guys in the league, and now you're having a kind of different is this your god moments with the Dallas Mavericks. Well, you talked about Quentin Grimes, and you're just head over heels over the
Love
guy.
the
And
guy.
I as a University of Houston Cougar basketball enjoyer, watcher, seer, noticer, if you want to call it that, um, I've just been rooting for the kid forever, and I hope he really gets his shine there, because there's plenty of play that he can get outside of, especially now that Tim Hardaway Jr. is gone. Are we over 10 minutes? Yeah, that basketball terrorist is now that he's gone. It's nice, and you gotta love it. You gotta always there's always some kind of extra bit of hope, and of course Klay Thompson was that for you this offseason, but that Quentin Grimes throw in, it's always the throw ins that make the most noise. It's always the Bo Nixes of the world, just the guys who you don't think are going to do well, the guys who even in some cases you're like, you need to get a job, leave. There's some guys there's so many guys that are like that. Also, R.I.P. Rodney Hood's NBA
Mm-hmm.
career, absolute legend, trailblazer legend, and trailblazer for the game, dare I say. So 10 bell salute to you, and 10 bell salute to Quentin motherfucking Grimes for playing in Luka's absence. Hopefully this continues. I'd love to see the guy just flourish, and obviously with Luka on the court, or with Luka in uniform and healthy on the bench. But you guys will be all right. It's early in the year. I know it's the West. If you guys lose an extra game that you might have not lost with Luka there, you take
Right.
those. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with the Rockets versus the Bucks, with Giannis stepping out of bounds and Şengün just blowing a. Not, I don't know, you can't even say he blew a wide open layup. He kind of just fumbled the pass. But this is what the NBA season's all about. And injuries are tough, but your boys in blue will be all
Yeah,
right.
and getting PJ Washington and Derek Lively back from injury after missing a couple of weeks there, that was rough. It was looking real dark. But the good news is that the Mavericks are both, I think they're top 7 or 8 in both offense and defensive rating. They have the sixth best rating differential. So they're not a bad team. They're a very good basketball team. It's just Luka hasn't been clicking, so it's different. It looks different. Luka's off ball a lot. He's not carrying the ball up the court every single time. He doesn't touch the ball on some possessions. Like he's just kind of out there as the decoy, which is a completely different experience than what we've had for the last several years. Like this looks like Luka.
I'm not gonna call Luka Doncic a cone. I just wanted to
He's
say
very
that.
good at defense. Top 10 in steals last year. If you look up the stats, not a big deal.
Wow.
Yeah.
Noticer.
So I think it'll be all right if he can come back in a week or two. I think it's going to be fine. Kyrie can carry some games, and then you're going to have some random role player games where Najee Marshall goes off for 20 for no reason, and Quinn Grimes has 20 for no reason, like out of nowhere. Like a few games ago, Quinn Grimes just was 4 or 5 from three, and I was like, "Welcome to the rotation. There's 20 minutes. Here you go, 20 minutes from here on out." Like that's all he needed to do because he plays good defense, he hustles, and all he had to do was start making shots, and he started doing that. So I think we'll be fine, but Luka wrist injury reevaluated in a week. Another good team, allegedly, the Cleveland Cavaliers started off 15-0. Last time we saw them, they're now 16-1. They finally lost. They finally lost the game. They lost to the Celtics. They went down big, like 20, 24 points in the second or third quarter. It was getting pretty rough for them. The Celtics couldn't miss. Cleveland couldn't make shots. Darius Garland was like 1 of 11 from the field at one point. Not great. They ended up making a big comeback, but fell short 120 to 117. But they bounced back the next night and took home another win. I can't remember who they played. Doesn't matter. They're 16-1. So they finally lose. So we don't have to worry about any records and acting like Cleveland's the best team in the league because they're not, but they're very good. And 15 games in a row to start the season is an incredible feat. So good for Cleveland, but I'm glad it's over and we don't have to talk about it as much. We've talked about it every podcast like this entire season. I'm tired of talking about Cleveland. I don't care.
And I don't have a problem with that necessarily, but obviously, if it comes to be January, February, and we're like, oh my god, the Cleveland Cavaliers are 40-6,
Yeah.
that'd
And we're
be that'd
having
be one thing, and
conversations.
surely, that would benefit everybody involved. But early season high points and early season low points are so it happens far too often, especially now. And of course, this is like we were talking about with all the access of information is just so high now. You get so many different analytical point of views. You get different player point of views, like we talked about with Paul George and his podcast. Like there's a lot of information you can consume in with the NBA, and I know that the NBA is kind of freaking out that their ratings are down. I mean, also I think big part of that is I mean, a lot of these views aren't getting counted. Like they're using alternate methods to find these
Also,
games,
football
and
season.
that's and it is absolutely football season. I mean, the NBA doesn't start until Christmas, but they took that away from us. America took that away from us. It's sad that I will be watching the Houston Texans instead of whatever usually really good basketball game is on Christmas, and it just I no words. I feel so. Our world's changing, brother, and this is just another example of it. This all started with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now I'm getting in my feels about Christmas Day games just being taken away from us, ripped, if you will.
Yeah. And I felt that a couple of years ago, end of 22 Christmas, the Miami Dolphins played on Christmas Day. And it was rough because I didn't get to watch. I didn't get to watch the early game. I was in Miami, so it was Eastern time. I was eating lunch, and then went to the games, like a 3 o'clock game. It's interesting. The Christmas is getting ripped away from us. It's like the Grinch showed up. NFL is there, and football is king in my family. Football has always been king, and I understand that football always comes first. But all of a sudden, the one day where I had just NBA on the TV, where I could put it on Christmas Day after opening presents, get the breakfast in, 11 a.m. start time in New York usually. Now I don't get that. I don't get that at all. I got to watch football now all day long. I'm not even going to, I'm probably not, I'm going to have to bring my laptop into the room where we watch football. I'm going to have to watch it on my laptop and everyone's going to be like, oh, it's Christmas. Why do you have games on? What are we doing? What are we doing, NFL? Just leave it be. You could have Christmas Eve. Take
Yep.
Christmas Eve because the NBA has it off,
Please.
and the day after. Like, just take those 2 days and call it your Christmas Day games, even though it's not Christmas Day. Please. Begging.
No, man. This is absolutely just gut wrenching, if
Yeah.
you will. And of course, the Rockets haven't played on Christmas in about 4 or 5 years now,
Didn't
and
deserve to.
you know that yes, we have not had a great product.
Had to throw it
But
in. Sorry.
the NFL just taking it all away from us. You cannot. There is no feeling that can be understated. I am just devastated, if you will. And with these Cavs, I'm going to touch
Yeah,
on this
yeah, yeah.
very quickly here because we've talked about how good of a defense that they hold every game. We talk about the team games that they throw on every single game. It's like even Ty Jerome is getting 25 point, 30 point outbursts. Like who what is
I don't know.
happening here? Can the can the NBA not keep up? I don't understand. Like because I know they haven't had a great schedule. They started out 15-0. Great. This is great for them. Like you have a lot of leeway in a really not great East, and you might end the year as a 1 seed if you keep half of this play up for the rest of the year. And sure, that'd be amazing. But man, every guy on that team is good, and you watch them on League Pass, and every guy is fucking good. Like there's no amount there's no thought that goes into what they're doing. They're just hooping, and I feel like more people need to appreciate it. But it does feel kind of okay that no crazy streaks are going to get messed with, and there's no obviously you can look at Donovan Mitchell, but there's no like star player when it comes to that team. It just they play the game the right way. Damn it, gotta appreciate
I'd
it.
argue that the Cleveland Cavaliers deserve nothing but sadness for the rest of their franchise history because of how they
Oh,
wasted LeBron James's like youth. Think about it. They just didn't do
sure.
anything. They're like Shaq. He's 90 years old, but here you go, pal. Here's Shaq.
They completed
The
Rainbow
best
Shack.
player he ever played with in his first stint was Zildronis Ilgauskas, like, and a fine player, I will say.
A
But
great,
yeah,
arguably,
but not an
player.
all-star, not an all-timer. Like, you couldn't find someone to just, like, in free agency or draft someone that was, like, decent in the first 2 years of LeBron's career. I didn't they don't deserve anything because of how they
Okay,
wasted
okay.
that.
Now,
Yeah.
now I'm getting into
Yeah. Yeah.
now, brother. This is so. Now I have this whole soapbox in my brain that is just fuming. Where you can look back at those Cavs teams and you can pinpoint Larry Hughes. I don't know if he was an all-star or not, but he was a damn fine player. Drew Gooden, damn fine
Correct.
player. Even like amazing role players like Boobie Gibson. Like there were good players on that Cavs team. Even Eric Snow was a pretty good guard at one point. Like, sure, he didn't have an amazing supporting cast,
No.
sure. And yes, he got absolutely dog walked in the 2007 finals,
Mhm.
but yeah, the teams were not great for the star power and the level that LeBron was at, but they weren't just throwing out dog shit
But
every
he
year.
asked for one thing in 2010. Go get me someone to play with. And they were like, "Yep." Couldn't do it. Couldn't even figure it out.
Nothing.
Just nothing.
He was
And he
gone.
was like,
He was
"Miami,
gone.
thanks.
No,
See you later." Um, yeah, Cleveland. 16-1. Pretty fucking good.
pretty good.
Pretty good. Before we go, Rockets talk. You had a rough one against the Bucks the other night. Was that Wednesday night? Yeah.
Yep. Was it?
Tuesday
No,
night, something like that.
Monday.
Yeah,
Monday.
Monday night, sure. It's been a long week. Been to 2 Stars games. I haven't slept a lot. I can't remember things. It's fine. Yeah, rough one. Giannis steps out of bounds. Dame cooks you for a layup, and then Shingun he bobbles the layup, essentially the alley oop layup that he could have just thrown up there, and I don't kind of flopped a little bit, and then kind of fell, and it was weird. It was a weird transition. That's rough because Giannis was out of bounds and plain and simple. And then they never even said anything about it because they don't do 2-minute reports anymore. Even though they came out and said that Julius Randle traveled the other night, and I'm like, what? I thought we got rid of this whole thing in the 2-minute report, but now we're bringing it back. But then they don't bring it back for Giannis, and obviously we've been talking about Giannis and the Rockets a lot. So it was a rough game for you boys. Rockets talk. You have your soapbox. Get on it. 5 minutes.
Uh, I just talked about the Rockets for 30
I know.
minutes.
On Summit. Check out
Yeah,
Summit State
it
of Mind
was it
on
was.
Apollo HOU YouTube and all podcast platforms. Great Rockets
That's
story.
right. That's right. Yeah, it was a beautiful moment for all of us, and it was a great meeting of the minds per usual. Every time me and JP and the boys get together, it's magic out there. But when it comes to how the boys have been doing, I mean, the only 2 or 3 teams in the West with 10 wins, 11-5. My favorite all-time 16-game NFL record, if the Texans could be 11-5 forever when I was a kid, I think that all would be right in the world. That was such a Steelers ass record, if you will. And just knowing that the weird, not necessarily defense oriented, but just weird vibe team in the Rockets right now is becoming that. It feels perfect to me. On Hometown Heroes night, Rudy T night, new court night, the Summit Court, the Summit State of Mind Court, if you
Yeah.
will. Everything is going right at Toyota Center right now, and I know we had that awful loss against Charlotte, like we mentioned on Summit,
Mhm.
and there's going to be down spots, but there's not really much to complain about. And I wish I could sit here and go on a 10-minute rant about how every single player is being misused. But even we're at 25 minutes, even basketball terrorist Fred Van Vliet is just not necessarily playing the game too bad right now. And so I truly don't have much to complain about. Jabari had 23 points the other night, or last night as we're recording this on Thursday. I I love it. I love it. It feels like 2018, baby. It feels like 18. You gotta love it. And the boys are buzzing. I'm not saying we're gonna get 60 wins. I'm not saying we have two basketball legends, two basketball gods on our team, but something's brewing. And 50 wins, just starting to feel right. Starting to feel right now. I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but the city's buzzing again. And damn it, it feels
It
right.
is.
And thank you for being on this journey with me. But there's no complaints right now, and I love it. And I think the Texas hate is back, and I think by the end of the year we might have some problems with each other. But as for right now, let's enjoy this.
Yeah, we're both praying for a 4-5 matchup in the first round
Please, God,
because this
please.
podcast will self-destruct.
Oh my God, there will be an hour of us just screaming at
Mhm.
each other, and I
We're gonna have
cannot
to do
wait.
2 episodes. We're gonna have to do the NBA playoffs and then Rockets Mavs series. Like, we're gonna have to do 2 separate
Oh my
episodes in one
God.
night. It's gonna be great. Yeah, the Rockets look good. Şengün is looking a lot better. I know I called him out the other night, and look what happened. I call him out. Probably watch the video on our YouTube at Apollo HOU. Hit that subscribe button. Probably watch the video, and he's like, what are we talking about here?" And then he just starts going off. And you know what? Maybe I was wrong. I don't know. Could have been. I'm not gonna admit it. It's a maybe that I was wrong. I don't know.
Wow,
I can't
wow.
tell.
Well, to be fair, I did kind of stop you in your tracks. I was like, let's simmer down on this
Yeah,
here
I didn't get the
because
full lead
Alperen
legit, so that's all
Şengün.
right.
Yeah, Alperen Şengün, and I was gonna say I'll even halfway take the fall for you too. Alperen Şengün is just he's a great basketball player. Who would have thought, right? After all this chit chat, hoopla, drama, whatever you want to call it, not even drama with Şengün, just everyone seems to have an opinion on him on Rockets Twitter, and in a way, I do feel for the people of Turkey because they just want to support their guy, and if they think that people aren't talking well enough about their guy, they're going to go to bat for him, and I wish that we had fandoms like that in this country. I wish that the Red Rowdies would expand. When I went to the Rockets game last week, there was maybe 15 Red Rowdies. When I was a kid, there was 2 to 3 or 500 at times. What they're taking away the Red Rowdies from us, Stone, and I'm tired of it. That's my Rocket
Okay.
soapbox. I want to see more Red
Bring
Rowdies.
back the Red Rowdies. Never seen them. Doesn't mean a single thing to me, but yeah, to bring back the Red Rowdies, it'd be great. Rockets look good. They're in a great position right now in the West, which is tough and only going to get tougher as the season goes on, as everyone gets healthier and teams start to gel a little bit more. The contenders start to come back up to what they are. Um, yeah, good for you, I guess.
Thanks, appreciate it, man. This is gonna be I've said this every year since 2010, but this basketball year is just different.
Yeah.
And I don't care what ratings have to say. I don't care what regional sports networks have to say. That all them changing and all this stuff going on. We're here and we love it and we consume what we can. And damn it, League Pass is just thank you, Jason Tatum. I appreciate it. I hate you, Jason Tatum, but thank you for the free year of League Pass.
Yes.
Because if it wasn't for you, I don't know what I'd be doing. I might have 10 different viruses on my computer at this point, maybe 12. I don't
Yeah,
know.
we got till February, and then it's over.
I'm paying it out the rest
Yeah,
of the
it'll be
year.
fine.
Fuck
It'll
it.
be fine. It's like
Yeah.
$24 a month. It's like 2 meals. It'll be
Yeah.
fine. Um, yeah, zero gravity. Short and sweet this week. We'll be back Sunday, I believe. We'll be recording, and then
Sure. Why not?
we'll put out some more basketball content because Lord knows the Sixers are going to do some more stuff in the next 2 days.
Yeah. Can't wait for this weekend. Gonna be fun. Gonna be a fun basketball weekend. Man, I might go golf. Fuck it. Fuck
Yeah,
it. I might go
it's
golf.
it's great in the
Let's do
afternoon,
it.
like low
Oh
60s,
man, you're telling
low
me.
60s.
Oh, it
Oh,
was beautiful.
the only problem is the leaves. You can't see your ball half the time. It's terrible.
Well, it's white versus, brown and orange. I think it'll
The
be
glare.
fine. Unless it's like trapped in there, and that'd
The
be one
glare
thing.
always
But
messes with me. I have to wear sunglasses. I can't see shit.
I was ripping. Was it you that brought the clubs in the Apollo office? Because I
I don't know
was
who
just
brought those. It wasn't me.
yeah. Shout out Mystery Man, because man, I have never felt that good hitting a four, what is it, a 4 wood or a 3 wood in my life. It's very long. It's about a foot and a half long. Pause. And I'm just loving the fake grass
Yeah,
patch. I'm loving
the
that,
turf
dude.
is great.
I'm ripping the
Have you
shit out of those
have you made
balls.
the long chip into the bucket in the office yet?
No, and I need to do that next
I
time
did
I
that the
go.
last time I was there in August, so I'm going to be doing it again tomorrow. I'll be in office tomorrow. It'd be great. And see all the boys be in the Apollo office. But Josh, thanks for joining. Shout out to our sponsors, Big City Wings, Houston's Wing Joint, Apollo's Wing Joint. Go check them out today if you're in the Houston area. They've got 14 locations in Houston. Chances are, if you're in Houston, you're near a Big City Wings. So go get some great beer, great wings with some great people over at Big City Wings. Shout out to Prize Picks. Use code Apollo when you sign up and get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. Prize Picks is a daily fantasy app available in certain states, but Texas, luckily, Prize Picks is available for you. So use code Apollo when you sign up. Get up to $100 matched on your first deposit. Josh, thanks for joining me. Zero Gravity listeners and watchers, thank you for joining us as well. We'll be back very, very soon with some more basketball content. This has been Zero Gravity, Apollo Media's NBA podcast.